Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through this 10-game slate. The NBA action never stops. We had 14 on Friday. We had 8 on Sunday. We have 10 today. Another one of these schedules around the Thanksgiving or around the holiday season that you'll see again come up around the Christmas holiday, where because there's a day off, it was Thanksgiving for the NBA, they jam a bunch of games around. So we're still reaping those consequences this week. Only a 3-game slate on Tuesday, only a 1-game slate on Thursday. We'll be here with the Injury Report Analysis Show each of those days, but obviously expect Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to be longer shows than Tuesday and Thursday. All that said, Mike, how are you on this fine Monday?
Doing good. Yeah. Too much time away from basketball. I didn't watch nearly as much basketball as I usually do, so trying to play catch up today. And yeah, got a lot to talk about as usual. And there's so many back to backs today. It's we're getting this news kind of trickling in today. It's going to be interesting how it all shakes out.
Yeah, and because 14 games on Friday, meaning 28 of the 30 NBA teams played on Friday, for a lot of these teams, these are 3 and 4 nights as well. So the schedule's been really condensed. We saw this happen yesterday where there were a ton of injury updates during the course of Sunday's slate. It'll be the same tonight, where you'll be hanging around. The games are a little bit condensed once again. This is the other thing that's been happening is I think it was Friday or Wednesday. There was only one game after 8 o'clock Eastern, so all the news is hitting all at once, which can be very hectic for DFS, for prop betting, so on and so forth. It will be a similar schedule tonight, where you can see most of the games, are essentially done by 9 p.m., 8 p.m. There's 4 games after that Eastern time, so yeah, it's gonna be wild. Let's get into it. The first note of the day is usually we don't start off with good news, but the first note of the day is a questionable tag that's good news, meaning Joel Embiid was listed questionable for the Philadelphia 76ers. And we have not seen Joel Embiid play with the 76ers for a little while. It's been the Shake Milton show in the absence of Embiid. They are playing on a back-to-back tonight. Matisse Thybulle is listed as questionable as well. PJ Tucker is listed as probable after he left last game, continued his incredible streak of scoring, or not scoring, should we say. What are your thoughts on the likelihood of seeing Joel Embiid return tonight?
Yeah, don't have much here. Remember, because when this first happened, we were like, "Oh, Embiid's out 2 games," and just been kind of tacking on. So definitely more of a maintenance thing. So I think he's got a pretty good chance to play here. We'll certainly get that information, as it's the first game of the night. But never really alarm bells with this injury. It was more of just we've got a long season ahead of us. Those kind of vibes from Doc Rivers. Tucker also very minor injury. Back to back was a factor. Doc Rivers said they just decided to put Daniel House in there to mix it up and keep Tucker minutes down, since they know they got to play him again today. So expect him to be back and starting. Obviously, probable tag kind of tells you that, anyways. But yeah, other than that, we'll see, as you mentioned, possibly a lot of usage coming down. We'll see, their offense has really functioned through big men quite a bit, with Harrell and Paul Reed playing really well. Got some really good minutes out of Paul Reed. They're playing more pick and roll offense, and, teams have been able to switch more without, Embiid. They don't want to put guards in Embiid as much. So they're going to have to function much differently on the offensive side if Embiid is back. And again, we'll get that information for the first game of the day.
Yeah, on the other side of that game, another big man questionable. Clint Capella still dealing with the dental pain that we were dealing with on Friday, apparently. He's questionable. DeAndre Hunter and Jalen Johnson also questionable here. What are your thoughts on their availability for the Hawks tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this Capella keeps getting ruled out before. Definitely think there's a chance he plays. As you mentioned, he's going on pretty much a few days here with this dental pain stuff, so he should be back. Hunter illness, don't know. Again, we'll find out. Obviously, if he doesn't start, we saw that they are comfortable going with AJ Griffin in a bad matchup for him. They put him. They're okay hiding him and letting Trey bite the bullet. They'll definitely do that again here without as much guard pressure, without Tyrese Maxey and Harden. So I would expect, if Hunter can't go, to see pretty good minutes out of AJ Griffin in the starting lineup.
All right, let's keep it moving to the Boston Celtics, who are on the second night of a back-to-back. Last night, Jason Tatum took off. Tonight, it sounds like Jaylen Brown could take off. He's listed as questionable. Al Horford is ruled out, and you can see Jason Tatum is not even on the injury report. So we'll get Jason Tatum back tonight. do you think we'll have Jaylen Brown as well?
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably going to sit him for maintenance. He played really well last night, ran a lot of the offense last night, so I'd expect him to pick up, a game off here. They've got enough depth there. I think they would just start basically the same guys, 1 through 4. We've seen them start Blake Griffin in Al Horford spot. I think they do that again. He seems to like that. It obviously won't be big minutes. It tends to be Luke Cornett picking up more of the playing time. But I think Brown's got a pretty good chance to sit. He's pretty healthy. We mentioned last week Tatum tweaked his ankle against the Bulls, played through it after the next game. And then they sat him out for basically just rest. He's not even listed, as you said. So I think it makes sense. They're playing well. They're first in the East. I think giving Brown a game off in a matchup they should be able to win without him, right? Against the Hornets, who are playing pretty poorly. I think it makes sense to sit him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And Jalen's growth this season has been sort of underlooked in the strength of this Boston season. Obviously, Tatum is the primary name people think about in putting up an MVP caliber start to the season, but Jaylen Brown's been right there with him and really improved the ball handling, lowered the turnover rate so far this year. Things looking really good for Boston. On the other side of Boston, they're playing Charlotte, where we should note that Terry Rozier is probable with an illness. So we think he'll be fine, but they're still without LaMelo. They're still without Gordon Hayward. Any other notes for Charlotte while we're on the game?
It's bad. That's the only note I got. They did beat the Wolves on Friday, but
The Wolves, man.
What a bad loss. They had a rough weekend, man. They haven't played since Friday. So when did he start getting sick? Right? Was he sick after that? It's because they've been off for a little bit. So definitely, anytime you see a probable illness tag, I think you want to be cautious. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's the not first game, but we should have that information, and we're expecting him to go.
And the Hornets are pretty good about getting information on the earlier side of things, unlike some of the other teams we talk about. On to the Wizards. Rui Hachimura is questionable. They're on the second night of a back-to-back as well. Kyle Kuzma sat last night. He is not on the injury report tonight, so much like Jason Tatum, looks like it was just a scheduled rest day for Kyle Kuzma. No Bradley Beal on the injury report, no Kristaps Porzingis on the injury report. So it sounds like, relatively healthy. Johnny Davis also off the injury report, so a little bit more guard depth here. I was sweating bullets on this game last night because we had Jordan Goodwin under 13.5 PRA, and he had 5.5 PRA with about 45 seconds left in the game. And you can see it got to 12. Which combined with Paul Reed having 2 steals overturned and Marcus Morris getting an assist on his last pass of the game, it was a very tilting Sunday for me. The Wizards, Rui Hachimura, he has not been available of late. Do you expect him to return tonight?
I think he's got a chance. He was ruled out fairly late, was ruled out basically with the other guys who were ruled out, with Kyle Kuzma, who was, quote, close to playing yesterday, according to Wes Unseld. So he had a little bit more, like Tatum was just pure rest. I think Kuzma is dealing with a little bit of something with the back injury, but expecting him to be out there in a full go in a spot where the matchup's really good for Kuzma. I think he could hit the ground running, especially without McDaniels to bring extra ball. The Wolves can't contain the ball without McDaniels. They're asking way too much out of Rivers. I mentioned this last week, man. I mean, McDaniels is just as important as Anthony Edwards is right now because they just can't stop anybody when he's not playing or he's in foul trouble.
Well, let's go to the Wolves. You mentioned Shane McDaniels, Taurean Prince, and Jordan McLaughlin are all out on that situation. No other notables on the injury report to monitor, but you did note that they started Austin Rivers last game when Jay McDaniels was out, and it could have been construed as, hey, this is a matchup against Steph Curry. Austin Rivers has been used against Steph a lot wherever he has been in the league, at Denver, wherever Austin Rivers has been, he's been used to guard Steph Curry a lot. Not that anybody slows down Steph Curry, but he's been used in the role to try. But the games before, he was also the direct sub for Jaden McDaniels. So I don't think it's necessarily just a one-spot start situation for Austin Rivers. What are your thoughts on him and who else benefits? We saw Jalen Noel's minutes tick up as well in the first half.
Yeah, after the game, Finch said that he's trying to find minutes for Austin Rivers. So I think this is obviously naturally a spot where he's going to go to him. They need they need somebody to guard the ball. Anthony Edwards does not do a very good job in this role, so I think they're going to ask Austin Rivers to be their point of attack defender. God bless them. So, pretty good matchup now for the Wizards perimeter players, going from a really bad spot with McDaniels and going to now an Austin Rivers, Anthony Edwards led defensive unit, which has been really struggling when they've been asked to call upon. Whenever McDaniels gets in foul trouble, the Wolves just get wrecked. Ant just can't pressure the ball like he did in the playoffs for whatever reason. Won't get into too much of that, but I think the Wizards could score some points here. But definitely expecting Rivers to start more Noel because they don't have McLaughlin, no Prince. So these are all guys who are kind of competing for Noel's minutes. So I think the leash will be a little bit shorter for Noel if they can't defend, but they need the offense on the perimeter here if you get a bad game out of Edwards or D'Angelo. But those guys definitely should benefit. Probably not enough to go to the Forbes of the world. And Kyle Anderson shouldn't see too many minutes. He's also dealing with back spasms. It's not listed, but I think it takes away a ceiling from him.
That's the interesting note I want to focus on there, because when you see Taurean Prince out, you see Jaden McDaniels out, I think of forwards first as guys that could potentially benefit. Your notes on McDaniels' defense being a point of attack defender make sense in terms of Austin Rivers, but I was surprised that Kyle Anderson's role basically was unchanged entirely in the last game. And I know Golden State plays a little bit on the smaller side of things, so maybe that's a little bit different with Washington. But it was notable to me that Kyle Anderson, I thought he was going to get into the low mid-20s maybe, but they really were willing to let Austin Rivers go. Do you think that'll be the case again tonight?
Yeah, I think so. They don't need the point of attack defense quite as much here against Golden State compared to last night to Wizards tonight. But I think the minutes are going to be pretty solid. He really likes them just because I guess the way that his minutes get cut is if Anthony Edwards comes out and plays defense. It's just he's been just so inconsistent, and Finch doesn't want to give him that role. He just doesn't trust him. So I think the minutes should be pretty good, unless we see Ant just turning over a new leaf today, which seems unlikely.
All right, let's move on to Toronto, where a bit of good news as well here. Pascal Siakam, Precious Achiuwa, Scotty Barnes, Delano Banton, all listed questionable. All four of these guys have been missing multiple games for Toronto of late as they've been really, really shorthanded. They play Cleveland tonight, so they're going to need all the help that they can get as Cleveland's been playing really well. What are your thoughts on availability here? Is there anyone you think is a little bit ahead of the others in terms of their potential chance for a return?
Yeah, I think Pascal's got a really good chance to play. Went through practice, really no shady Nurse quotes. There was kind of an odd quote from Nurse about Scotty Barnes, about his knee maybe not being the only thing that's bothering him. We saw he was really struggling before he missed time. So Pascal had the more serious injury because we literally saw him do a split and miss time, significant time. But it sounds like he's on track to return here. We probably won't. Well, maybe we'll see like normal minutes relative to not Nick Nurse. So like if it was another coach, we could maybe expect normal minutes. But it sounds like he's got a good chance to play. Precious also, I don't have quite as much info there, but I don't think they need him. I mean, we saw Chris Boucher light it up over the weekend, getting second half starts and playing long stints here. Just made a huge impact in this game. Also, obviously, shout out to OG. I believe he allowed Luka to just 15 shots in 43 minutes. So really kept his users down. OG, man, got to be making a run for Defensive Player of the Year. Definitely expecting Wancho will be out regardless. If they're both out, I would expect them to go back to that lineup that they've really been using. Van Vliet, Trent, OG, Scotty, and then Pascal as the 5-man, and then probably see Boucher early sub, probably for Siakam to keep his minutes suppressed a little bit, or Scotty, one of the two, because they kind of use them interchangeably. But I think Boucher, bottom line is, I think Boucher could find minutes here. It would be Thad, Wancho, even Koloko, who went bye-bye. Ken Burch actually gave him really good minutes over the weekend too. I want to kind of give Boucher some love because we love to pile on when it's going bad.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when it's kind of going good, when he has competition coming back for minutes too. So I think he still could maybe be okay. Obviously, the floor is really bad, but I think there's a bit of a ceiling case for him when they need the size and the rebounding, even though Jared Allen's not there.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Cleveland side of things. Jared Allen ruled out. Karis LeVert, though, back, and they are pretty thin in that 3-4 spot, so it's kind of a big deal because they're without Kevin Love, they're without Lamar Stevens as well, I believe. So how do you think the rotation kind of shakes out last night they went and started Robin Lopez, and he played 4 minutes
Mhm.
against the Detroit team that's a little bit smaller. Tonight against Toronto, how do you think they start, and how do you think the minutes get pushed around in that front court?
Yeah, so I kind of think they may go. So this the Levert got benched, not really for his own play, which could be an argument, but it was at least described as giving Lamar Stevens a chance. He's out, so they don't have him. They don't have Love. They don't have Jared Allen. So I think it's not crazy to start Levert. I think you'd rather have another ball handler against a team that is so good at pressuring ball handlers. I think it makes sense. I don't think you necessarily need that kind of size. They've been asking a lot out of Mitchell and Garland to defend, so I think they are okay putting Levert out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start Garland, Mitchell, Levert, Dean Wade, Mobley. They don't really want to play Robin Lopez too much, just because you don't have Kevin Love. So I think making your rotation smaller and help filling minutes that way, making Jetty more of a 4 sub, making Dean Wade more of a straight 4, and filling your minutes in that way, I think makes it a little bit easier to just kind of build your rotation behind those dudes.
Yeah, so you think Robin Lopez to the bench, Karis LeVert back in the starting lineup, and essentially
Hmm.
Mobley at the 5, Wade at the 4.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because there were some quotes from Bickerstaff saying that he likes Mobley being the center for running offense and even on defense, making it tougher for because they like his post defense and stuff too. So yeah, it's a tricky matchup there, right? Because I mean the Raptors play so big, 2 through 4. So you're asking a lot, but they're kind of cornered here with the lack
Yeah,
of personnel in the front court.
yeah. Do you think there's any chance Diakite has like slid above Robin Lopez, or I'm not sure where those minutes kind of came from last night, but
Yeah, I
Robin
don't have a
started and
take on
then
that
was
one.
just done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I don't have a take there, but that was
Okay.
interesting.
Okay, let's move on to the Orlando Magic. Mo Bamba and Chuma Okeke, questionable. No Jalen Suggs, no Markel Fultz, no Wendell Carter Jr., no Terrence Ross. They were a disaster last night in Paolo
Mhm.
Banchero's return. They have been a disaster much of the season, and now they face a Brooklyn team that's been playing better basketball of late. Just when I got out, Brooklyn is trying to suck me back in. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on Orlando tonight? And if we see Bamba and Chuma Okeke, if not, what on earth is this front court going to look like? Is it the Mo Wagner show tonight?
Yeah, this is just gross. Should add with the Nets, number one half court defense in November. They are defending now. But
Yep.
this is gross, man. I think they probably have to start Gary Harris again, so it'll be point Franz. Powell's minute should be pretty good. Jamal Mosley after the game was just like he was just crestfallen, man. He just looked like he was done. Just he couldn't take it. He was like, "Oh yeah, we're just losing all these bodies." And he said hasn't been this bad since they had the COVID protocols. You remember how bad it was for Magic? They
It
were like
was
literally signing guys that day and
particularly,
playing
yeah,
them.
particularly
Yeah,
bad then.
yeah. So they are really thin. We've seen RJ Hampton. They just need on ball defense too without all these guards. Jalen Suggs, I don't think he's very good, but they ask him to guard the ball, so I expect Gary Harris to pick up that role. RJ Hampton behind him, maybe have to overlap him a little bit. I mean, they're going to need perimeter defense like really bad here. I'm curious to see what the spread is, but it seems like they're going to get kind of run out of the gym. But Bomba's back spasms, he's had back spasms before, so as you said, it could be more the Wagner Bros going at it. But he may have to play a lot too. I mean, they'll run Bull out there too, but as a 5,
Yeah.
him interchangeably with him. So the
Yep.
minutes could be really good for Bull, and the matchup is awesome here. We know the Nets have struggled at rebounding, so it could be a really nice Bull night if Bamba can't go.
Yeah, and if they can, I mean, Bol got to 32 minutes in a game that was completely non-competitive. Boncaro got up to 31 minutes. They brought him in for a fourth quarter rotation when they were down 30, just to like get his conditioning up. But it's a spot that you could see if they're without Okeke and without Mo Bamba, could see a scenario where the center position is essentially Mo Wagner and some Bol, kind of separating them a little bit. The power forwards position is Bankero and probably Caleb Houston, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit there. And then at small forward, you'd have uh, essentially essentially Admiral Schofield and I got sorry, Bobo at power forward with Bankero, and then a little bit of Caleb Houston, and then the small forward would be Bankero, a little bit of Houston Schofield, and then guard is like Terrence Ross, Hampton, Gary Harris. It's bad. It's
Yeah,
real bad.
this is real bad.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the Pelicans, where there's a ton of injury information as well. CJ McCollum is ruled out. Brandon Ingram is doubtful. Kyra Lewis is available, though I don't think he'll get into the rotation. Larry Nance and Najee Marshall both questionable here. So, I mean, this could be the Zion show in a big way. It also could be the Jonas Valanciunas show in a big way if they're without Larry Nance. What are your thoughts on how the Pels try to adapt? They got destroyed by the Grizzlies over the weekend in one of the most disappointing performances of the weekend. What are your thoughts on how they respond tonight without Ingram, most likely without Ingram and McCollum?
Yeah, Ingram has a great toe, big toe contusions. So we'll see if he's gonna probably miss time. Brandon Ingram, very slow healer. He takes a long time to return from injury, so I would expect him to miss multiple games. Certainly, this is the Trey Murphy's music portion of the program. We expect him to pick up pretty big minutes, more or less slotting into his role. Obviously, they would need Najee Marshall to help a little bit. They mostly run Najee behind Herb Jones, but they would need a little bit more size on the wing, so I'd expect him to pick up a little bit more run. Devontae Graham, also capable of filling in. He'll probably be out there for all the non-Trey Murphy minutes for spacing. A little bit of overlap, especially when maybe Alvarado is sitting to not put two smalls on the court at the same time. Should mention, it sounded like CJ is close from clearing protocol, so obviously not playing tonight. But I don't expect this to be a Denver Nuggets situation where it's out to doubtful. Based on Willie Green's comments at practice yesterday, he wasn't quite through yet, but we always got to keep our eyes peeled for that, right? Because it just happens way too often here. I think that mostly covers it. So I don't think they're going to need to go there. They got Dyson Daniels. They still got Graham, Murphy, Garrett Temple probably ahead. They may throw him out there for like a half rotation just to give it to him.
Kyra Lewis, you're referencing.
Yeah, Kyra Lewis. Sorry if I said that wrong. Because there was some quotes about the team rallying around him, going through ACL recovery.
Yep.
So I think it would be like, are they? They're home. So I think that will be a cool moment for the fans. So I think you can kind of paint that picture. But also, this could be Zion smash slot, baby. We love it against OKC. So
Zion or Joe Val. I mean, obviously OKC does not have a lot of size on the interior, and there's that Larry Nance questionable tag there. If Larry Nance is out, what the interesting thing to me would be, usually Willie Hernan-Gomez has kind of come in as that backup center and filled that role. Oklahoma City is so small that there's a chance, if they had enough wings, if they had Najee Marshall, if they had all the other guys, that they could just stagger Joe Val and Zion a little bit more. And each of those guys would have all of the offense to themselves without Brandon Ingram, without McCollum. And that would be really interesting to me tonight. But the Larry Nance Jr. questionable tag, I think, is really, really important from a DFS perspective tonight. And Najee, certainly important in terms of making sure that Trey Murphy and some of the other guys have ceiling minutes. But it's a matchup against OKC. They like to play small. They struggle on the inside. This is a very, very good spot for the Pelicans bigs.
Yep. Could see some big Valanciunas action.
Let's move to the Bulls, where Alex Caruso is questionable. And we have seen over the last year and a half or so, whenever Alex Caruso has been out, the Bulls defense has really struggled quite a bit. He is not only a great individual defender, but he's a great communicator and really impacts their team defense quite a bit as well. He also is in a guard rotation that is pretty log jammed with bodies, with Kobe White, with Goran Dragic. What are your thoughts on Alex Caruso's availability tonight?
Don't know. Ankle tweak. Didn't hear too much from. I didn't really get much out of Donovan in the post game. So we'll see. Probably game time. Should add too. It does affect Pat Williams' minutes just a little bit because he subs in behind him sometimes when they're going against guard-happy teams. Not a guard-happy team in Utah, so a little bit different. Definitely could be cutting. It would be affecting more of the Kobe Whites. Dosunmu a little bit. We've seen Dosunmu's minutes get pulled back here and there. We saw him lose minutes closing to Kobe White against the Bucks last week. So obviously not having Caruso could push up his ceiling. He's been really quiet in a matchup I think he could take advantage of. We've seen this Jazz team get wrecked at times in the front court. So really good Vooch matchup, and I don't think Caruso would really affect him at all. But we'll see. A pretty late start there, so we're probably not going to have that information before we get rolling on the early games.
Yeah, I was just going to note, it seems like we've had like 3 or 4 great Vooch matchups in a row. We had Boston, which they've been struggling against bigs a little bit, then Milwaukee, which is terrible, and then OKC. And we just haven't seen the Vooch explosion spots offensively. It just seems like the usage is, even in good matchups, has been down quite a bit this year. It's been sort of frustrating. Just looking, he's only getting 12 shots a game now and hasn't cleared 18 points since November 4th when they were a little bit more shorthanded on the guards. So it seems like a lot of usage is just flowing through Levine and DeRozan these days. But all right, let's move to, well, the other side of that game. Former Bull, Larry Marketing, questionable, went through shoot around today. Going to be called a game time decision. Mike Conley is still out. What are your thoughts on Larry's availability tonight?
Yeah, got Will Hardy got asked about Marketing after the game. Went off for about he had kind of a rough game against the Suns, and the Suns really schemed up against him. Saw some Mikal stuff, so no mention of the injury. So shoot around. I assume he just had contact, and they put him on there. So I think he's good to go. But late start, so got to be a little bit careful. If they don't have him, they might just turn loose Beasley. They really feel comfortable with his minutes. He's been playing so much, so I think starting that way makes sense.
He also fills a similar role offensively in terms of the spacing and the spot up shooting and secondary playmaking.
Yeah, and should add they want to make Colin Sexton more. They want to make him a bigger focal point defensively, which is a choice. So that could possibly help some of the Bulls perimeter players, especially if Flory, who doesn't do too much on ball stuff, but they're asking a lot out of Sexton to slow down the ball. So I think that could actually create a plus matchup for specifically DeMar. Even though he won't get that matchup, but I trust DeMar and mentioned Vooch. Those guys I think could really take advantage of the matchup, especially if Flory's short on minutes or out.
Other shoot-around notes, Bones Highland did not go through shoot-around today. He's listed as questionable. Michael Porter Jr. listed as doubtful. What are your thoughts on their availability for the Nuggets tonight?
Yeah, it sounded like the illness really knocked him on his butt. Comments from Malone at practice over the weekend saying he wasn't able to really go through practice. So based on the lack of shoot-around, which always got to note, not going through shoot-around when you're ill isn't as big of a deal, whereas if you're dealing with an injury. So, despite how the framing of those comments make it seem like it's pretty doubtful, do have to see. Maybe he feels a little bit better. They've got enough depth there with Ish back now. Malone said they may look at him a little bit more here, so that's something to note, especially with Bruce likely starting for Michael Porter Jr., who has pain in his heel. This is not great for a guy who's struggled with injury. So a guy, playing through pain with the heel, just they're not going to play him. So we could assume him out. I would assume multiple games. It was, quote, building, according to Mike Malone, with this MPJ thing. So they want to get him right for sure.
Yeah, and this Nuggets team, I mean, they've been ravaged with illness and injury throughout the early portion of the season, and they played 13 of their first 19 games on the road, and they're 12-7 in second place in the Western Conference. They get Houston at home tonight. It's probably time for the Nuggets to start separating a bit from teams in the standings with a lot of home games upcoming. Okay, more questionable tags. Anthony Davis, calf issue, questionable, did not play last game. LeBron has his usual probable tag once again. The Lakers are playing better, we think. They've been games against the Spurs, so it's a little bit hard to tell. But we saw Dennis Schroeder have a really strong performance in that starting role in absence of Anthony Davis and LeBron. 7 for 12 from the three-point line, 10 for 10 from the free throw line, 39 and 11. Big fantasy numbers in a 143 to 138 All-Star game-esque box score. What are your thoughts on Anthony Davis's availability tonight?
Yeah, so just before we popped on, Jovan Buha does great work for The Athletic. He tweets out the picture of the black sleeve on his left leg. So this is a new thing for AD. We know he's always been listed as probable with that back tightness thing. So new injury. It's this guy says he wants. I think so. I think that they're trying to get him to play. Right? You see him in the jersey there. Look like going through some work. So there were some comments from him earlier in the year saying he wanted to play 82. That obviously doesn't come to fruition. But I think he wants to play. So I would expect him to be in there. But game time for sure. But I do expect him to play and start with that lineup of Schroeder again, Troy Brown, LeBron, and Lonnie Walker.
Yeah, the favorable matchup against Indy, and one that I'm interested to watch tonight just because all of the trade rumors all offseason with Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. Indy played horribly yesterday in LA against the Clippers. They get a shot to redeem themselves tonight against the Lakers. All right.
Shout out to Zubats, man.
Zubats, almost a 30-30 effort.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle said he actually didn't blame Miles Turner. He said that the team defense was so bad and they can't leave Miles Turner stranded like that. So curious if AD's licking his chops after what Zoo did to Turner yesterday.
I'm sure. Turner also got into early foul trouble in that game, so Zoo was doing a lot of that against the other bigs, which we have seen this year. Indiana's defense, when Miles Turner has been off the floor, has been really bad, like one of the worst in the leagues. And when he's been on the floor, it's been really good. But yeah, Zoo got the best of them last night. Other injury notes, Seth Curry, not on the injury report for Brooklyn. Yuta Watanabe, the only kind of noteworthy guy that's out. So Brooklyn's starting to get healthier. TJ Warren's still going to take a little bit of time, I assume. But they're looking as healthy as they've been. And as you alluded to, they're playing defense now. And things are starting to come together a little bit for the Brooklyn Nets. What are your thoughts on the rotation? And like the other thing that we've been seeing is as they've been getting healthier, the rotation's been getting tighter as well, right? Like you're used to seeing these box scores with the Nets with like 11 guys, like 4 or 5 guys with like 8 to 12 minutes and just like trying to throw stuff against the wall. It seems to be starting to crystallize what the rotation looks like. What are your thoughts on what Seth Curry's role ultimately will be when fully healthy?
Yeah, just lights out yesterday. I mean, goes 11 to 15 for 29 points. Durant talked him up without even being asked about him after the game. So expecting maybe a little bit later on minutes just because he ran so hot and he's on a back-to-back. They've been generally managing him. So I would expect him to give a little bit of that to Joe Harris. We've seen Claxton and most of these guys play pretty good minutes. Ben Simmons' minutes have been really strong as well. So as you said, the rotation's been pretty tight. I think Vaughn pulls him back a little bit. So I don't think he wants to play these guys too much on a back-to-back. We mentioned this Orlando team's going to be real bad. So, that's something you want to factor into in DFS because if they do smoke them, they will be, going to garbage time pretty early.
Yeah, and they have a pretty busy schedule this week too. I mean, they play Wednesday and Friday and Sunday. So they have 3 more games this week. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, as all these teams do, all these teams have been playing a lot lately, right? So they have 3 more games this week. This is their 3rd game in 4 nights. We're talking about situations where you're getting like 6 games in 10-ish days. Teams are going to be looking for opportunities if the game gets out of hand to really ease off guys who've been playing a lot of late. Okay, any other injury notes that we missed or any other news that broke while we were on that you'd like to cover?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. It should be a pretty good night. The Jazz, let's see what they put out. They put something out here. Check that out really quick. No, it's just an old report, but it's from their PR. Cool. No, we're good.
All right. Good to know. If you are interested in following more of our content behind the paywall today at 5 o'clock Eastern, myself and GPP bro Gary will be on the 1s and 2s talking through this 10-game slate and how to approach it. And as always, we want you to support the people who are supporting us. The show is brought to you by the good folks over at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running in addition many formats of NFL contests, still running for huge prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, subscribers at ETR can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. You can use the promo code ETR at deposit to get a matching deposit bonus up to $100. It's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right. As always, we will be back again with another edition of the NBA Injury Report Analysis Show tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. If you are uninterested in supporting us with your hard-earned dollars on the Cyber Monday, you could at least give us the benefit of the clicks. Please subscribe to our YouTube page here, get notifications whenever we go live or post any other content you would like to consume. And also consider smashing that like button to help circulate the algo. It's been a big week of eating. It's time to let the algo eat. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.